Oh, it's good. Yeah, it's rocking. Yeah.
It's kind of suggestive.
It is. But hold on, I did move.
We're just waiting on Senator Fernandez anyway. I call this meeting of South Dakota Mines Student Association sent to order. Roll call on approval of proxies. Alarape. Here. Archer. Camps.
Here.
Dominguez.
Here.
Dumont.
Here.
Proxy Hawk.
Here.
Espinette. Here. Hernandez.
Here.
Hewitt.
Here.
Jurgens. Call. Proxy Borman.
Here.
Lamb. Here. Lewis. Here. Lockwood.
Here.
McCown.
Here.
Proxy Posters.
Here.
Quigley.
Here.
Russ.
Here.
Seatman.
Here.
Twin.
Here.
Wheat. Ben Ruler. Proxy Zug.
Here.
Motion to approve process.
Second by. Okay. All those in favor of approve proxies, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Proxies are approved. Moving on to agenda. Any complaints about the agenda? Seeing none. Pass again. Unanimous consent. Any issues with the minutes? Seeing none. Minutes are approved. Unanimous consent. Moving on to open floor guests. CubeSat. Welcome Sterling Wallace.
Are you going to be controlling the slideshow or do I? Okay, perfect. All right. So I'm here to present CubeSat, my meeting with Sterling Wallace. The purpose of CubeSat is to build and design what's called a microsatellite, which is just a very small satellite, and then we'll put it on a rocket and it will actually go into space. The goal of this club is to develop team skills, encourage the exploration of space, and to improve everybody's technical skills. It's a good resume builder for anybody kind of in the engineering and science field. This is what the leadership is going to look like. I am the chair. We have Preston Drew, vice chair, secretary is Elliot Bredenbach, treasurer is Brody Leisinger, and our advisor is Dr. Jason Ash. The meeting is just going to have a brief introduction, followed by attendance, and then I'm going to give a presentation on business, and then it will be open to discussion and anything important that needs to be talked about. Goals of CubeSat. So, as of right now, we're going to be doing balloon testing until about 2024. We're going to be testing a cosmic ray detector, and then hopefully by 2026 we'll actually have the cosmic ray detector ready to be put on a CubeSat and sent into space. And then any other designs that students may be interested in, we will consider for alternative CubeSat projects. It's my image credit. Any questions about CubeSat?
What does your membership look like right now?
What is membership?
As far as like, juniors, seniors, sophomores.
From what I recall on the list, it's mainly freshmen that are interested in, but we're taking anybody. But I'm not quite sure, like the number of students in each class.
Sure. Any other questions for CubeSat? Third Queen.
Has this been done at other universities, or is it like a kind of a nationwide thing?
Yes, it is a nationwide thing. CubeSat existed, I believe, in 2017, and then it stopped after some students graduated. But yeah, there are many other CubeSat groups, teams around the country, and actually even outside the country.
So, I'm considering doing purely for new orgs, like an additional SOAP workshop. Do you think that you guys would benefit from that, or are you?
That'll probably be beneficial, yeah.
Any other questions for CubeSat? Hey, Don, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, no problem.
Only leave a note on that real quick. We didn't get a resolution. I didn't get a resolution this meeting for CubeSat, so that'll be brought up first time next week, so it'll probably be a couple weeks before you're approved. But yeah, thanks for coming in.
That sounds like fun. Thank you guys.
Alright, moving on to new business. Starting with resolution 22F011, Grubby's Garden Club supplemental.
Marshall Schleich, resolution 22F011, presented on the 19th of October, originated by the Finance Committee, presented by myself. Whereas Grubby's Garden Club has approached the Finance Committee with a supplemental request to provide funding to set up initial gardening beds, and whereas the appropriate paperwork has been filed with the Finance Committee, and whereas Grubby's Garden Club was recently formed and has not had the opportunity to apply for SOAP and is only eligible for $750 this fiscal year, and whereas the Finance Committee has deemed $750 an appropriate amount to allocate to the organization, and therefore be it resolved by a majority vote of the Student Association Senate and the signature of the Student Association President that $750 be allocated from the SOAP reverted funds account for SA003 to Grubby's Garden Club.
Any questions for Senator Russell? Seeing none, we'll see this next week. Moving on to resolution 22F012, Steam Club SOAP funding.
Marshall Schleich, resolution 22F012, originated on the 19th of October 2022, originated by myself, presented by myself. Whereas Steam Club filed for SOAP last fiscal year but was left out of the allocation pool, and whereas Steam Club had a representative attend SOAP workshops last year, and whereas Steam Club submitted a SOAP application by the deadline, and whereas Steam Club requested $900 in their SOAP application, and noting organizations requesting under $1,000 do not need to present at a SOAP hearing, and therefore be resolved by a majority vote of the Student Association Senate and the signature of the Student Association President that $900 be allocated from the SOAP reverted funds for SA003 to Steam Club. So essentially, this has been a long time. I've been pushing it off. Last year, the Finance Committee forgot about one club to allocate their SOAP funding. This is that club. It's $900. Also, their application was a pretty good application. So even if they did have to present, they probably wouldn't have been deducted a whole lot for that. So this is just fixing it right that we did it last year.
Questions for CFO Keenan? Senator Russell?
Do they need the funding soon or
Yeah, they told me it was not a rush thing, so.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we will see this next week. Moving on to open discussion. Anything for open discussion?
So, part of the role for Student Senate is to select or help select the commencement speaker at both the December commencement and then again in May. So I have a list here on 3 pages of every student who's indicated that 1, they're graduating this December, and 2, they intend to participate in the ceremony. So what I need from you, and you'll see the executive team up here has already made their votes. Everyone gets 3 votes, but you have to use them on different students. So if you really if you want to hear from Mark Cedarface at commencement, you can't put 3 tallies next to Mark. But 1 and then move on to your second and third choice. Okay, so I'm gonna pass this around. Everyone please indicate 3. Even if you're a proxy, please indicate 3. And then from there we'll bring it to the commencement committee and President Rankin, and they'll make a decision from there. Senator Russ, I don't know if now's the time that you kind of wanted to talk about some thoughts about the process.
Yeah, I can talk about that.
Future.
Yeah. Well, I kind of brought up at commencement committee today, and what I've heard from some seniors and some people that have already graduated, is maybe sending out a form to the senior class, letting them vote on the top 2 that commencement committee would actually choose instead. I feel like that would make a little more sense because it's the senior class that's being chosen from. They probably know the rest of the seniors better than we do. So I guess I was just looking for input or feedback on that. So we wouldn't really be able to do it for this commencement, but for like the spring and from commencements continuing after, we could.
So what if, spring commencement, we're gonna have probably 3 times as many names. We just have more students graduating in May. What if we do this process like normal and maybe take the top 10 and then send it up to the seniors? Would that make more sense? So that they could vote on the top 10 that you guys pick?
I would rather do it his way because if they vote, I would say if they vote like the top 10, then you know like on average who they want to speak, then we can vote on it in an easier sense and fashion. Because if we vote for someone that they don't believe represents like they want to speak or like they just don't like it, just like in a consensus they're like, well, we really would rather have this person speak. At least they had that opportunity and they put in that, and we see what they want, and then we vote from there. If we're still in that way.
Just from like seeing results from student elections the last year, I think it would be better for us to vote on 10 than have the seniors vote, because otherwise you're going to get like 1 million people writing one random person in, and then you have to go still sort through like a ton of people, and I don't really know that that's efficient or effective.
Yeah, just to add on to that thought, I would worry even the person with top votes might be past 20, whereas if we only have 10 candidates, maybe 1 or 2 people would have weight higher than that. So I think we should vote and then it should go out.
Yeah, so essentially we vote, narrow it down, let them vote, and then they would still have to vote on top 2, and then commencement, like the actual commencement committee would still have to choose the person. That's just the way it's set up in like their constitution or our constitution. But yeah, so essentially we would narrow it down for them to 10 or something like that, and then.
Can we formalize this for the future so that we know what our session today and all of this is?
It's a really good question. Trying to remember here. Best way to do this. Thank you on that. Anything else? Anything else for open discussion? Alright, seeing none, moving on to CFO report.
Alright. Hope everybody's still having good midterms. And the only thing I really have to report on, I guess 2 things. The first thing being trees. As I know plenty of you have, or plenty of people in the student body have expressed concern with the new core building going where it is. So last year during former President Jones's period, we allocated $25,000 to a tree fund, which is usually only used for Arbor Day, but I got an email today asking about that fund, and it sounds like they might use that fund not just for Arbor Day, but also to help replace the trees that they cut down when they start the new core building construction. And then the only other thing I have to report on is there was another supplemental that did come across my desk for ISE, and essentially the reason why that wasn't presented today was because they sent in a supplemental that passed last year for almost the full 5,000 for their regionals, and those funds were transferred over from last year. So I'm trying to get clarification before I present another resolution for more money. End of report. Any questions?
Senator Myers?
Have they given details on the trees as to the location they want to put them in, or is this for like 2 years from now when the building's done to put them back into whatever green space is left?
I was only asked today where the money was, or if there was money in this fund. So I'm not sure.
So that I could actually add some to that, or at least like some clarification with kind of the, I don't know if it's tree committee or what it is, but or with the tree fund, but a lot of the tree, if I'm not mistaken, it was established quite a few years back, just kind of with the Emerald Ash Board from the 3 years. A lot of our trees on campus are ash. So this is just kind of sustain the tree population as they die off. That's inevitable. It's like there's whole trackings for like the health of trees on campus, like literally every tree on campus, if I'm not mistaken, through facilities. I could get some clarification for where they're kind of wanting to put kind of those new ones. Any other questions for Cecil Devon? See none, moving on to the report.
Okay. The only thing I have to report this week is kind of a teeny tiny update from Student Fed concerning the mental health initiative that we're taking. I was in contact with Executive Director Katie Honda and President Kate Leland. And all they've said so far with the Board of Regents so far taking over the mental health initiative is that they're concerned with, quote, they did share their main concerns creating competition with other board priorities in this section as for funding. So there is a decent chance that we might not see any funding for our mental health initiative through the Board of Regents, but we're going to try to remain optimistic with that because they do seem to want to help us. It's just funding that's always an issue. Aside from that, and the report.
Questions for Vice President Schleicher? Nicole?
Is there anything that you guys like talked about that you can do like without like a ton of funding for like mental health stuff?
Yeah, so we kind of discussed this a little bit with Joe a little bit last week about if the Board of Regents can't provide like kind of start doing our own thing here, which that would require probably additional data, but that's always a good thing to see.
I think there's a few things USD is trying to do with mental health, more policy-wise. They're really trying to push for mental health kind of sick days, kind of no questions asked. That's kind of something we talked about a bit. They're just really trying to see where we're going UR wide, and with it kind of being co-opted by UR, we might be looking into for here with how slow going it is through UR.
I'm originally from Vermillion, and so I have a bunch of friends from high school that are on the USD Student Senate, and I believe they just approved 2 mental sick days for students to use at their discretion for next semester. So I think it'd be a good idea to look at something similar for us.
I can add one other thing that this is looking more positive for starting next year. Most of you know Dwayne Kavanaugh, Director of Counseling Services. So if you ever had an adjunct professor, somebody who's part-time, they come in, maybe they have a career elsewhere, they come in and just teach 1 class, maybe 2 classes. So Mr. Kavanaugh is adjuncting for the master's program in counseling for SCSU that's here in Rapid City. I know that's kind of confusing, but they have a program, they're SCSU students who are learning to be counselors here in Rapid City. So he's teaching 1 course over there Tuesday night. And I think a lot of people really like his personality, they like his approach, so a lot of those students are approaching him saying, hey, I really want to, when it's my turn to do an internship in counseling, I've done all my classes, I just need to do my hours, I want to work with you. So we've already got 3, maybe 4 master's level students who want to join our department over here in Survey. The other thing that Mr. Kavanaugh is pursuing is in a counseling program you have an internship, but you also have a practicum, which comes first. The interns are usually a little bit more independent, but practicum students can do some counseling as well, some more basic stuff. And we're looking to possibly partner with SDSU to be practicum site. So that would answer your question, Senator Hall. How can we do this with 0 money? Because we don't have to pay those interns or practicum students. They actually pay SDSU tuition. So we potentially could have a a lot more professionals in training helping out next year.
If the Board of Regents does not approve this proposal this session or year, whatever the correct term is, can it be reapproached, or would it just be dead in the water?
It can definitely be reapproached. So the big thing with the proposal being brought up, mental health was actually part of Senate Bill 55. With Senate Bill 55, you don't know about was there's a lot of into it. It had originally started as trying to combine PHSU and SDSMT, but then it evolved into kind of different focuses within the BOR for improvements, as well as saving money by negotiating contracts jointly. You know, that's why we have SIDEXO, BOR-wide. So it's still within there, and I think that kind of we brought it up to kind of the consciousness of the board review. So it's good that. Any other questions?
Another thing for Senator Hall, speaking with Executive Director Constant, President Wood, another thing that they do at USD is that they, we all have peer mentors here. They also have peer mentors, but they also have like mental health peer mentors. And I spoke very briefly with Rob Sales about this and about possibly trying to bring that aspect to our peer mentor program. Just kind of like as a trial, kind of see what it's like maybe next year or even this, spring or anything. Just to test it out, that would be pretty much, I mean, we already paid the students to do that, so just a few more responsibilities. Try that out, see how that works. Another thing is that they require all student board leaders, president, vice president, all that work, to be trained with certain mental health capabilities for preventative measures, so that not as many students end up in counseling in the first place. So if we could, and if they don't do that, they don't receive their version of SIP funding. So that's also another thing we can probably look into. Why we will be able to create some idea of what they'll receive. But that's another way to also do without spending any sort of content.
So for the RAs in here, a lot of what they need for their mentors is QPR as well as locking down. So they just incorporate that further and make it part of reaching on campus versus just within residential life. Any other questions? Let's see, anything else for anything else? Any other questions for the reflection? All right, so for my report, not a whole lot this week actually. The legal initiative that I was expecting has not been brought up. Not there on my desk for the new court building. I've been not really doing anything on that until if that's brought up. Outside of that, it's pretty, not a lot this week. Any questions? All right, international report.
Yeah, so the India Club started preparing for the Diwali event. Those of you who don't know what Diwali is, it's an Indian festival. It's a festival of lights, and we host about 400 students and people from the community, and it's going to be on November 19th at 5, I think. That's the end of the report.
Any questions for Senator Fernandez? Seeing none, moving on to veteran report.
No report.
Questions for Senator Tui? Seeing none, moving on to graduate report.
No report.
Seeing none, any questions for Proxy Bowman? All right, non-traditional report.
No reports.
Questions for Senator Kent? Seeing none, moving on to committee reports, starting with Constitution. Who else on Constitution? Nothing?
Nothing. Well, we should have the CubeSat resolution next week, but besides that,
Are you guys looking into, I know you guys have, what was it, leadership and success coming through? I think there's another word coming through.
That hasn't been presented in any of our meetings yet.
Yeah.
So Sam has it, hasn't been brought up yet.
Yeah.
This week, item.
Okay, sounds good. Questions for Constitution? Seeing none, moving on to public relations.
We got the gift cards for the pigskin problem, and we're working on validating that all the Hard Rocker discounts are correct. That's all.
Okay. Questions for PR? Seeing none, moving on to governmental relations.
we are going to local businesses asking for donations to do a raffle for our fundraiser. But I don't, that's it for now.
Any questions for VR? See none? Moving on to student affairs.
Yeah, so tomorrow we're having our open forum for the new core building. President Rankin will be there, and so will Geraldine Roberts. Please encourage your friends to come, and if you guys all want to come too, that'd be great. I want to see as many people there that have questions. It's at 5 o'clock in the Surbeck Ballroom. Yeah, that's pretty much it. End of report.
Any questions for student affairs? See none? Campus and ad hoc committees? Is that right?
This is another assessment committee thing. Just looking for more input. So this fall will not be moved, but they are looking to move commencement a week up for the future because other Board of Regents schools are doing that, and they just kind of want to follow trend. But they're gonna ask for input first. So essentially, they just want to move it from the weekend that it currently is, which is the weekend following the end of finals. So finals ends on Wednesday, and it's that weekend. They want to move it to the weekend before that. So because our finals is split by the weekend, they want to move it to that weekend. So I'm looking for input on that first before I ask anybody else's input. Senator Else is also. Yeah, Senator Else is also on commencement, and her opinion is that she would feel like this would stress her out a little bit more, having to deal with finals and graduation on top like each other. Whereas like currently you finish finals and you still got a couple days before graduation. I also feel like, in my opinion, that is also how it should stay. I just feel like having commencement that weekend in between finals is kind of rough. Would anybody else like to put any input on that? Or say they agree or disagree?
This is the only place that I don't know what other states do, but like back home they do it the weekend before, like what they're proposing, and I think that a lot more people would be around and it might be more fun, but it would probably add stress, and then you're like positive, but I think it's kind of weird that they do it after here. It's like almost everyone's gone.
So if it was the weekend before finals, it would be different. But it's the weekend, like, because our finals is a split finals, so it's like we have finals Tuesday, Friday, and then the weekend, and then Monday, or Thursday, Friday, and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So if they did it, I feel like the weekend before, then maybe, but they want to move it to the weekend in between, like in the middle of our finals week. So I guess just clearing that up if that's.
I think that moving up would be really good because not always, but a lot of seniors don't have as heavy of a final schedule like that specific week. And I know like a lot of my friends are graduating in December and they are very stressed about how it is right now because I live in Rocker and you have to graduate on Saturday and then move out on Sunday and like
Anyone else?
Adding on to that, I know, like with the split finals as well, like not everyone has finals that second week. I've noticed that was like super stressful. But last year I did know some people that have to find hotels because we had to move out after 24 hours after our last final because they wanted to stay longer for graduation.
I don't know how much control you guys have over ResLife, getting people out at the end of the year, but could you propose to ResLife that instead of students having to leave 24 hours after their last class, they have to leave 24 hours after commencement? Because that way they wouldn't have to spend extra money.
Traditionally, graduating seniors have been allowed to stay until at least 24 hours after commencement. I'm sure it's something we brought up to ResLife about allowing students that put in for a late stay exemption without having to pay for it to stay until after graduation, if it's going to become a more prominent event in students' minds.
It seems like even if we don't move it back a week, we at least need to get probably get a whole Canadian prize. Kind of keep our kids for graduating. I'm personally not for recommending why some people want to move up. I also don't live on campus, so right that much.
I guess more of a question for you, Joe. They just want to move the fall commencement, but not the spring, right? The spring will stay where it's at, and it's just the fall moving a week. So that's something people are thinking about too, I think.
That was the same impression I got, but I can't say for 100% certainty.
It on the agenda it just says fall, so I
Okay,
think
so yeah.
that's what. Yeah. So essentially, it would just be the fall moving up, and not the spring one. But yeah, otherwise, all of the input that you guys have is very helpful, and yeah, that's also something I think that they brought up at the meeting was it would help for people who want to leave if they don't have finals the rest of that week, or if they're living on campus, it gives them more time to move, and there will be more people on campus if it's that weekend versus the later weekend. So.
Any other questions for Senator Russ? Any other campus or ad hoc committees? I know food service met. Who's all able to make it to the food service on that committee?
We discussed a couple different things. I didn't know this, but Andy's actually started the liaison meeting between food service and we talked about the noodle station, which will be a 24-hour concept, part of this building shift, and we don't really know the update on that, unfortunately. Dining hall will pretty much be as it is currently. The shack will have an order ahead idea pretty soon. They'll be through the Everyday app, and we'll also apply it on Shop in Rocker Square is done except for the cameras, which is about to be shipped, and until then it can't be open.
And like the app that was spoken was like the Everyday app, so that was kind of like order ahead and like flexi, so that was kind of like discussing like you could order ahead like food at Einstein's, for example, and then just like be able to get it earlier. And then also with the 24/7 market, it was interesting to hear about the camera situation rather than like there wasn't any staff involved, so it's kind of just like a grab and go situation. So kind of just like monitor how that works as a student body, if that is working out for everybody. And kind of like they repeated the like stuff from last time about like sign off bonuses for like students who like decide if they want to do dining work. But everything else the Senator you said.
I've heard some stuff as far as the U-Cook station. Whenever you brought it up in the Senate, I guess it kind of struck me, and I talked with some people. How's everyone here feel about the U-Cook station that they're trying to bring into the dining hall?
I think that's a great idea, and it'll foster independence for, I guess, students. I don't know.
We always need more food options.
I think it'll be a good idea as long as the food doesn't take too long to cook. I mean, like, it's not like everyone's on a time crunch, but for me personally, I mean, like, I don't necessarily love eating in the cafeteria, but it is convenient. So if I have to like spend more time to cook something, and I don't have that much time, then I won't be able to utilize it as much as the same food ready, which is just one of those things.
Yeah, I agree. I agree that. I think it's a good idea, but I don't know if, like, is there, I don't know, how many stations would it be?
I think it's 2 burgers, is that what you're?
I think that's what.
That might be pretty slow and fill it up, and not many people actually use it, but.
I think a more important priority, besides the U-Cook station and the noodle machine and the Starbucks machine, would be making sure that the the new 24-hour convenience store is as stocked as we can possibly get it as soon as possible, because I feel like that's going to be what most students are going to want to use and utilize, and I think that would be something that would be very beneficial to the student body.
I think the U-Cook brings unnecessary risk to the dining hall with like our burner and stuff. You know, burning food, causing smoke alarms to go off, and then no one anything. You know, yeah. And then I know I would rather go to the 24-hour convenience store rather than Survex. I think that I would also be a little bit better.
Also, I was just clarifying because kind of now is the time to act because we're looking at, I think, trying to get that installed in December. So now is the time to act as a student body and be like, all right, this isn't of interest or this is of interest. Go forward with it, get the construction done versus you need to put in the dining hall in December and no one liking it. Never mind.
What's the difference between U-Cook and the cooking stations in Gold?
They provide the ingredients and menus for like cooking here.
And then they do that. Give it to students and students can go cook indoors.
I don't think it. There's probably like a cleanliness liability thing. They let it leave their place and then you get sick on your own.
I just don't see much utility in it at first.
Fair enough. All right.
Is it going to be an area that they have the U-Cook signs and coming soon at? Because if so, that's where they like, with all the food that they've already like made for the night or whatever meal it is, their door's right there. Also, like I was just thinking about that right now, is that their door to get all their food out to make sure that we don't run out of food on like the ready to eat type of stuff is right there. So butter there, like I mean, I like the idea, truly, but like now in practicality, where it's at is probably the most, to me, is the most like dimension of it now. Because if I had time, I would put it.
Yeah, so I basically have a question. Was there any discussion about the timings of minor strike? Because last semester it would be open from 10 to 10 every day, like even on the weekends, but right now I think it closes at 3:30 or so and it's not open on the weekends. I know the 24/7 shop is coming up, but till then, are there any plans for increasing the timings of minor strike?
Yeah. Minor strike or the U-Cook?
The minor strike.
Oh, minor strike, I think they are trying to extend the hours. Regarding Senator Twing's concern about safety, the U-Cook is only going to be open during like meal hours, so there is kind of supervision, but again, I can see there being problems. So.
I was like, yeah, so I've heard that they're getting people in the pipeline almost hired, if I'm not mistaken, to extend those hours from 10 to 10.
Yep.
Is that include weekends as well? So minor strike should be 10 to 10.
I assumed that they'd be open during just the dining hours in the dining hall, but is there going to be someone supervising or teaching those people how to cook those items?
Not that I know.
Yeah. As well as that,
We maybe as a sort of way to mitigate that risk or that concern of risk, maybe suggest that you, if you use the U-Cook station, you just have some experience, I think, or like possibly consider having someone there to help people do meals. Just a suggestion.
Would there be some form of like liability waiver that people would have to sign, or is it just assumed risk, or how would that even work?
Not yet.
I know last year that the station, the previous food provider, the station where they worked with the U-Cook, they just had someone behind the counter cooking the item for them, basically. So that's kind of what I imagined it was, but what we're talking about is like they're actually cooking it. But other than that, the line for it was really long because it was nicer food, it was fresher food. So would that cause like a clutter in Survex as well? Not necessarily clutter.
I was going to ask, like, address the food service committee. When's your guys' next meeting? Any idea?
Like he didn't actually state like there was like a specific date. It was probably like they were implying like the next month.
Okay. I'd say if you can take all this feedback to them, just kind of talk it out. For all the senators here, now's the time to really talk to your constituents and kind of see what they're wanting out of the dining hall, so we can get that. Be more proactive for some of the stuff that's going to come in the spring.
I kind of see this being a problem if they are actually like advertising it right now and then nothing happens. So I don't really know if that's a point of like getting rid of the advertising or just kind of dialing it back a little bit, because if you promise something and they don't, follow through, it's kind of hard to, kind of keep that trust.
You've seen all year.
Yeah.
Is it worth asking for next Wednesday, asking someone from Sodexo to come as an open board, I guess, to answer all your questions? I think a lot of us don't know. Like, is it they're actually cooking like the action station, and then you just put what sauce or what vegetables you want? Are you actually cooking? Is there a waiver?
I think probably bring them in later in the, or you guys would be able to reach out.
Yeah, I'll email that because I didn't hear anything about a liability waiver. Like I don't even have them in my notes. And I think that's actually extremely important just to get some statements. So I will try to get contact with email and bring that in the next meeting to get further clarification on that.
I was busy, I'm on the resources board. But another idea to kind of mitigate lines, and I know it's kind of like planning in advance, but if Sodexo or we had some type of way where you reserve the time, and then they know the time to take a meal, so therefore like you can have time slots during the whole times of like lunch, dinner. It's a lot of work, but at the same sense, then you have less of a line issue and things like that, because it literally there's a sign saying like, oh, scan this QR code to get to the schedule. And maybe it's only like, you only do 24 hours ahead, because if not, people would just be stacked on the spots. But I don't know, there's that, what Senator Shane brought up was a valid point that, yeah, it does sound like a great, to me, I really think the idea would be cool, but the practicality of it, depending on the time the meals being cooked, will.
I hate to do this, but there's, I guess, point of order on only allowing to speak twice on the topic. I just feel like we're repeating a lot of the same things. So I think this is an important discussion, though, and going to the
No other comments, questions on this? If you guys get some more details on that, that'd be great if you send it. Any other campus grad happening? Okay. Upcoming Senate business. So Senate Halloween costume contest next week. No business casual, no business professional. We want costumes. Open forum tomorrow. 5 p.m. in the ballroom over at Newport in our mission building. And then let's see, the top choices for this were let's see. Joseph Shelley, Samuel Kessinger, and Mark Cedarface. So those will be the top 3 choices coming from the Senate. Any nominations?
I had a question, my apologies, Sarah brought it up during open discussion, but will there be a chance this year at some point for Senate pollers to be a thing? To be ordered?
Take care of that.
You're taking care of that?
Closer to Jed, yes.
Okay.
So, but yes, I will take care of that.
My apologies, that was just my question.
Any,
There's the Fantasy Fright concert this Friday at 7 over in the Music Center. It'd be pretty cool if you guys came.
very quickly.
6-7 days till Christmas. Secret Santa's coming up, so I guess it's a good time to start practicing your thank you for your gift face. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of YouTube videos out there for that.
Senator Hewitt and I put voter registration forms in the Senate office. If you're not registered to vote in the state of South Dakota and you want to be, fill it out and bring it into the county auditor's office. So do that.
Any other announcements? Any motions?
Motion to adjourn.
Second by Senator Call. All those in